Some people come into your life not to love you, but to test you. Some make you question your worth, make you feel like you're always wrong, always too sensitive, always overreacting. But the truth is, you're dealing with a manipulator, a narcissist. And in this video, we'll reveal simple yet powerful phrases you can use to reclaim your power. Words that make a narcissist back off, because they're not just statements, they're boundaries, awakenings, and the beginning of your freedom from their toxic cycle. Don't skip a second of this video, because every phrase we share is backed by context and deep psychological insight, helping you understand why it works. And if you're on a healing journey, subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell, because we're here to walk with you every step of the way as you reclaim your inner strength and the peace you truly deserve. 1. I'm not interested in arguing with you. The power of emotional detachment. When you tell a narcissist, I'm not interested in arguing with you, you're not just refusing a debate, you're refusing to play by their rules. Because for narcissists, arguments aren't about truth. They're about control, manipulating emotions, twisting facts, and making you question your reality. They thrive on your reactions, and every time you defend or justify yourself, they gain more power. But when you pause, stay calm, and clearly say, I'm not interested in arguing, you cut off their fuel supply, your emotional response. It throws them off. The script they prepared suddenly falls apart because you've stepped out of the role they assigned you. This phrase isn't just a refusal, it's a bold declaration of emotional self-ownership. The key is to deliver it with absolute calm. No anger, no sarcasm, no raised voice, just quiet, firm clarity. That's what truly unsettles them, the realization that they no longer control how you feel or respond. By refusing to argue, you choose peace over chaos. You reclaim the emotional space they tried to invade, and in that moment you become untouchable. This simple sentence becomes a wall, not to isolate yourself, but to protect your energy and your truth. The narcissist will try to provoke you further. They may escalate, but the less you react, the more powerless they become. Sometimes, the most powerful thing you can say is no longer participating. 2. That's your opinion, not mine, a shield for your self-worth. One of the narcissist's most subtle tactics is making you doubt yourself. They don't need to scream or threaten. All they have to do is plant the seed. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm not good enough. They do this through backhanded compliments, sarcastic remarks, or helpful advice that slowly chips away at your confidence. It's manipulation through words. Quiet, calculated, and deeply damaging. But when you respond with a simple sentence, that's your opinion, not mine, you're putting up a solid psychological boundary. You're not arguing, you're not apologizing, you're simply separating their perception from your identity. This phrase is powerful because it disconnects their words from your self-worth. Instead of letting them define who you are, you're saying, I know who I am, and your words don't hold that power. To a narcissist, this is deeply frustrating, because if they can't make you question yourself, they can't control you. Remember this, you don't need anyone's agreement to be valid. You don't have to correct every statement or explain your value. Sometimes the strongest form of protection is to simply say, that belongs to you, it doesn't belong to me. And something amazing happens when you stop trying to prove yourself. You begin to feel free. That short phrase, delivered calmly and without defensiveness, becomes a powerful declaration of self-respect. You're no longer their mirror. You're no longer seeking their approval. You are simply standing in your truth and letting them sit in theirs. 3. I'm not responsible for your feelings. Ending the guilt cycle. When you're in a relationship with a narcissist, guilt doesn't come from doing something wrong. It comes from being made to believe you did. They may get angry when you set boundaries, act cold when you disagree, or claim to be hurt when you stop compromising. and somehow you find yourself apologizing for things that are perfectly reasonable. This is how a narcissist shifts the responsibility for their emotions onto you. When you stand your ground and calmly say, "I'm not responsible for your feelings," you break that toxic cycle. You hand back what never belonged to you in the first place, their emotional accountability. This isn't about being dismissive or heartless. It's about healthy emotional boundaries. You are allowed to feel what you feel, and so are they. But you are not obligated to fix, absorb, or carry the emotional weight of someone else, especially when it comes at the cost of your own well-being. Saying this sends a powerful message. I will no longer be manipulated by guilt. You're drawing a clear line between empathy and self-erasure. You're protecting your heart from being exploited by tantrums, silent treatments, or guilt-tripping disguised as vulnerability. And here's what you'll notice. Real freedom doesn't come from keeping others happy. It comes from no longer taking responsibility for what isn't yours. When you stop carrying their emotional baggage, you'll feel lighter, clearer, and stronger than ever before. 4. No, a small word that marks a big turning point. In a relationship with a narcissist, the word no isn't just a rejection, it's a quiet revolution. Because for so long you were conditioned to say, "Okay, I understand, I'll try," just to keep the peace, to avoid conflict, or to not seem selfish. And in doing so, you gradually gave up your boundaries, piece by piece. But one day you say no, not with anger, not with panic, just calmly, firmly, and from deep within. And in that moment, you begin to reclaim ownership of yourself. Narcissists hate rejection. They're used to compliance, to getting their way, to people bending to accommodate them. No throws them off because it reminds them they're not in control. More importantly, it shows them you're no longer submitting. You don't owe anyone an explanation. You don't have to justify your no. That one word is enough. Its simplicity and calm delivery shake a narcissist far more than any argument. Because now guilt and fear no longer control you. They can't guilt trip or intimidate you into saying yes. No is proof that you've changed. You're no longer afraid of being disliked, abandoned, or disappointing someone. Because you come to understand that any relationship requiring you to say yes when your soul screams no isn't love, it's captivity. And as you start using no to protect your dignity, your time, and your peace, something powerful happens. The world doesn't fall apart. It gets clearer, more honest, and you become stronger than ever. 5. I don't live to make you comfortable. When you stop shrinking yourself for approval, one of the narcissist's oldest tricks is convincing you that your worth depends on how well you please them. They praise you when you obey, go cold when you resist, and mock you when you choose your own path. Over time, you begin to confuse your existence with their acceptance. You live not to disappoint them, to keep the peace, and to avoid being labeled selfish. But then one day you stop. You look them in the eye and say, "I don't live to make you comfortable." That phrase isn't rebellion, it's awakening. It's the realization that you were never meant to be a background character in someone else's story. You weren't born to feed someone's ego or carry the weight of their insecurities. You are not responsible for making others feel important, especially when the cost is silencing who you really are. When you say this, you're not just breaking away from a person. You're walking out of an entire toxic system. A system where your comfort is always secondary, where you're expected to shrink, to bend, to censor yourself, just to avoid rocking the boat. And suddenly you understand, real love doesn't require self-erasure. Real love doesn't fear truth or punish authenticity. And here's what you'll discover. The less you try to keep others comfortable, the more you return to your truth. They might get angry, they might guilt-trip you, they might walk away. But none of that matters anymore. Because you've finally chosen peace within over approval from without. You've stopped performing and started living. 6. I see exactly what you're trying to do, and it doesn't work on me anymore. Out the manipulation shatters their illusion of power. One of a narcissist's most dangerous weapons is disguise. They don't always look like the villain. In fact, they can be charming, persuasive, even harmless. But behind that mask are subtle strategies: blame shifting, gaslighting, role reversing, making you feel like you're the problem. And as long as you don't recognize it, they win. Their power lies in your confusion until the moment you look them in the eye and say, I see exactly what you're trying to do, and it doesn't work on me anymore. At that moment, the illusion crumbles, because the manipulator's strength doesn't come from real control, it comes from keeping you unaware that you're being controlled. But now you see it. You're awake. You no longer react the way they expect. You don't spiral into guilt or rage on cue. You don't fall into the old loop of defending, explaining, or trying harder. Instead, with one simple sentence, calm, precise, you expose the entire game. And when you do that, you don't just reclaim power for yourself, you also force them to confront what they fear most, the truth. The truth that you're no longer afraid, that they no longer control your emotions like a puppet master, that something in you has shifted, and there's no going back. You don't need to shout. You don't need to argue. Just say it, clearly, confidently, and then silence. It's a slap made of clarity, no drama, all impact. 7. I've left this game, and I'm not coming back. A narcissist never truly believes you'll leave. They think that even if you're angry, hurt, silent, or defiant, you'll eventually come back. Because in their mind, every reaction you have is still part of the game they're playing. They count on your involvement, your reactivity, your presence. But then comes the moment when you no longer need to argue. You no longer explain. You no longer wait for them to change. You simply say, I've left this game, and I'm not coming back. It's not rage, it's clarity. No begging. No emotional tug-of-war, no need to justify your exit. This sentence becomes the door you open for yourself, and this time, you don't leave it ajar. You're not walking away to get attention. You're not using silence to teach them a lesson. You walk away because you know your worth, and because you deserve a life unshackled from manipulation and pain. Purifies them most isn't your anger, it's your peace. It's your silence, your disappearance, and the fact that you never look back. And when you let go, not because you're weak, but because you're finally strong enough to choose serenity, you're not just ending a toxic chapter, you're beginning a new one where you are whole, free, and fully yourself. 8. I choose peace, and that means choosing a life without you in it. There comes a point in your healing journey where you stop waiting for an apology. You no longer seek justice or try to prove who was right or wrong. You don't need them to understand, to take responsibility, or even to acknowledge the pain they caused. Because in the end, the most important truth isn't in their reaction, it's in your choice, and you choose peace. Not the kind of false peace that comes from pretending everything is fine, not the silence you use to swallow just to keep a toxic connection alive, but real peace. The kind that comes when you no longer allow someone else to control your inner world. And with that choice you realize something painful, but necessary. Some people can't coexist with your peace because they feed off chaos. So choosing peace also means choosing to walk away from them. No hatred, no revenge, just a quiet, resolute, irreversible decision. You're putting your mental and emotional health first. You're saying, I deserve a life free from manipulation, from fear, from the need to trade my identity just to be loved. You're no longer fighting to be seen. You've seen yourself, and that is the greatest victory. 9. I'm done fighting to be loved. Now, I'm learning how to love myself the right way. Perhaps the most exhausting part of being with a narcissist wasn't the harsh words or the silent treatments, it was the silent war inside you, the one where you kept trying to prove you were worthy of love. You sacrificed, you forgave, you stayed silent, you reshaped yourself, you dimmed your light, ignored your needs, and silenced your truth, all to hold on to a love that never truly came from a real place. And now, after everything, you finally see, love isn't something you're meant to beg for. It's not a prize for endurance. It's not something you have to fight to earn. You're done playing that game. You're letting go. Not because you've lost, but because you've awakened. Now you're learning how to love yourself in a completely different way, not through external approval, not out of fear of being abandoned, not by sacrificing your dignity just to feel seen. You're learning to love with gentleness and strength, to embrace your scars, listen to your inner voice, and honor the boundaries you once ignored. And when you do that, you no longer crave a narcissist's version of love, because you found something far more powerful, a real, honest, healing relationship with yourself. 10. I don't need a perfect ending, I just need a true beginning. You once longed for an apology, for regret, for a proper ending. Clear, dignified, and worthy of everything you gave. You believed that if they would just admit what they did, take responsibility, and acknowledge your pain, your heart might finally heal. But the truth is, a narcissist will never give you a beautiful ending. Because they never look back, they either walk away or keep manipulating, and so you sit alone with the pieces, no longer waiting for some redemptive moment from them, no longer hoping for an explanation that makes the damage make sense. You need just one thing now, a beginning that's honest with yourself, a beginning that doesn't need to be grand, just clear enough to say, I deserve something healthier, brave enough to release the memories that made you doubt your worth, loving enough to step into a new day without dragging ghosts from the past behind you. You don't need their ending because you've written your own. And right now, you are writing the first chapter of a new story. A story where you are no longer the victim, no longer begging, no longer imprisoned by counterfeit love, but instead a story of truth, growth, and freedom. You weren't given a perfect ending, but you are creating a beautiful life, built on what is real and rising from the strength within you. You don't need to be perfect to be worthy of peace. You don't need anyone's approval to know you are enough. And you don't need to win a toxic emotional battle to prove your value. The only thing you truly need is the courage to choose yourself, to choose truth over illusion, silence over chaos, walking away over staying out of habit. You've been through things no one else has seen. You've healed yourself in silence when no one was cheering you on. And if you're still here, reading these final words, then this is more than a sign. It's proof you are stronger than you ever believed. May the next chapter of your life no longer be defined by past pain, but by new clarity, healthy love, and the deep self-respect you've reclaimed. Because in the end, you don't need a fair ending, you just need a true beginning, and you're writing it one day at a time.